Live every day as if it were the last, because before you know it, time goes past and life's just not that long. Tell all you love that you love them so, because even if you do, they might not know, and one day we'll all be gone. Taste the wind, don't let it blow on by.
Chose the family we were born into. None of us chose the nation we were born into. None of us chose our body, blind or sighted, deaf or hearing, healthy or sickly. None of us chose the color of our skin. No one is born evil. We all are strongly influenced for good and evil from birth on. If I had suffered severe abuse as a child like Hitler, if I had suffered being starved for love as a young child and had been taught to worship money and power as Trump, and if years later millions of people cheered my crazy, hate-filled lies, I might have done Hitler's evils or Trump's evils. Being deeply loved and warmly hugged from birth turn on our conscience. Back on an Illinois farm where I grew up, when I was a teenager, I foolishly was addicted to many violent television programs. Gunsmoke, Wagon Train, Wyatt Earp, The Lone Ranger, Have Gun Will Travel, Zorro. I foolishly wasted many precious hours watching damn guns and violence. This is one of many things I would want to change if I had my life to live over, knowing what I know now. I woke up. I stopped watching that violent crap. I changed. Now I would not watch those programs if I were paid thousands of dollars. Why poison my mind? Why waste my time? I enjoy dancing up a storm to beautiful music. Mariachis, New Mexico Chicano music, older rock, older country, even though many of the words I don't like if they're about booze and revenge and violence and jealousy, but I sure love the tunes and the deep feelings, the passionate feelings. I enjoy deep personal heart-to-heart conversations. The more real and deep and personal, the better. I enjoy gardening, growing food and flowers. I enjoy hugging men and women of all ages, all colors, all sizes, people who want warm hugs with me. I enjoy sunbathing naked for hours on cool days when there are no clouds and no wind. I enjoy speaking clearly from my heart about many different subjects on this program. I enjoy constantly collecting wisdom on how to live and how not to live in order to live that wisdom and to pass it on to anyone interested. I enjoy making new friends, men and women of all ages, all colors, all sizes. I enjoy keeping my eyes and heart open to meet men I'm strongly attracted to. I enjoy reading articles and books on living and eating healthy. I enjoy making love, giving and receiving pleasure with men I'm attracted to and who are attracted to me. I want to be as lean, healthy, and sexy as possible at my age, as long as I live, even if I would never again have affectionate hot sex with any men. My friend James and I have written each other many dozens of letters since we began in 1994. It's going on 29 years. James is now 65, and he has been in prison in Illinois since before we started writing each other. We have never met in person, but he appreciates so much my friendship, my letters, and he calls me from prison often. They only have to pay a penny a minute, which is a wonderful deal. James, and he looks forward to his release from prison in just over a year. James enjoys feeding the bunnies, ground squirrels, and birds in the prison yard. Wild animals there in the prison yard. And in his latest letter to me, just days ago, James wrote this. I got to feed my bunnies, ground squirrels, and birds and had a great time. Now listen to this. Watching a young guy from Chicago hand feed a rabbit pieces of cornflake cereal for his first time. To see the pure, childlike joy on his face as the rabbit carefully took each piece of cereal from his fingers really made my heart smile. Maybe, says James, it will slowly teach some guys to be gentle and loving with animals and each other. Beautiful words from James there in prison. He says, take care and warm hugs, James. If you are in a relationship where you no longer feel any strong sexual attraction to the other person, if you're in a relationship where sex with the other person has become an obligation, a chore, something you aim to avoid if possible, if you're in a relationship where you're always pretending to be turned on, if you're in a relationship where you always have to fantasize only about some other person in order to have orgasm, if you're in a relationship where you guess your partner is also always fantasizing about only someone else during sex with you, if you're in a relationship where you both are afraid to admit you both are no longer in love, if you were ever in love, dare to speak your truth from your heart to the other person. Eventually, both of you may become much better friends than you ever were. You both may come to enjoy telling each other who and what turns you on. Most of us yearn for passionate sex with one or more persons who turn us on and whom we turn on. But sadly, millions of people, past and present, go to their graves never having had that their whole lives, those passionate romantic connections with anybody. No matter how much they yearned for it, wanted it. I know my mother yearned for and was capable of strong romantic passion. She did not feel that for my dad. So she ate junk food sweets night after night before she went to sleep. A slow poison substitute for the hot romantic sex she wanted and needed, sadly digging her own grave with her mouth. Imagine how much sicker our Mother Earth would be if all people old enough worldwide would own and drive cars like millions in the United States. Imagine how much sicker our Mother Earth would be. I've owned no car for 43 years. I would not keep any car, no lowrider, no luxury car, if given to me free, and if I were paid to drive it. I've ridden in no one's car for 22 years. Most people in the world cannot afford to own a car, and our Mother Earth surely couldn't afford to have them own a car. Highways, streets, garages, parking lots smother millions of acres of fertile soil needed for growing food and trees. Trees soak up the greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide. Trees give oxygen. Now, 77, I pledge publicly to never own a car the rest of my life. I have no car repairs to pay for, no car vandalism, no car theft, no flat tires, no parking fees, no traffic tickets, no monthly payments, no car insurance, no car crashes. I ride city buses, yes, but I mostly walk. If we are physically able, walking is best for our health and Mother Earth. Cars and planes are the worst for the climate crisis. I have flown in no plane for over 40 years, and I never will again unless I were forced against my will. We can wake up. We can change. For many years, I lived part-time in Albuquerque, part-time in Illinois with my parents when they were still living. And in Illinois, weeks before my mother died in February 1982, my brother and his two youngest sons, then 11 and 13, came up from their farm down the road to do evening chores at our parents' farm. I was in Illinois, but I was not home that evening. My mother later told me what happened that evening. After chores, my brother and his sons came into our parents' home to talk a little before going back to their farm down the road. My brother and our dad started talking, as they often did, about their cattle and hog business, prices, neighbors, whatever. My mother turned to my brother's two young sons, her grandsons, and she told them, when you get big, do not be like your father and grandfather, because they cannot talk deep to each other. Be like your Uncle Don, because he can talk deep. This was one of the best compliments I've ever received in my whole life. I do not know if my brother and his now adult sons remember what my mother said that evening 41 years ago. Do you have any friends you talk deep and personal to? Friends you tell your deepest fears, your feelings, your questions, your doubts, your joys. We all need that wonderful freedom with some friends. I have a cassette tape at home of a 1970s conversation on our farm with my mother, my dad, and me. My mother was very open with my dad about her not enjoying being married to him. But they stayed together 48 years until my mother died. She was very open with me and my dad about her strong attraction to a certain married man. Now, I'm not sure if that man realized how much my mother loved him. She never had sex with him. She never dated him. But she sure enjoyed phone conversations. They were connected in the hog business. And on the tape, this cassette tape that I have from the 1970s, my sadly very fat mother, who could not walk well, said to my dad and to me, I would walk to California for him. Speaking of that married man that she was so strongly attracted to. My dad said, you cannot walk across the room. My mother said, I would try. Funny, but very painful, open and honest. I learned from my mother to be open about my life, my feelings, and to be passionate in my romantic attractions. When loved ones are dying, make sure they know if you are willing to listen to their deepest fears, feelings, their regrets, their best memories and their worst memories, their wisdom, their hidden secrets, the painful lessons they learned in life. If you're willing to listen to those things of your dying loved ones, make sure they know. Never bullshit your dying loved ones with, you'll soon be up and around, you're looking better every day. What lying bullshit if they're dying. If you can't face the truth about your loved ones dying, why bullshit them when they need and they want friends and relatives who do not lie about their condition? Often dying people want to talk about death, but they know that some loved ones cannot handle talking about death. So if your loved ones are opening their hearts to you, for heaven's sake, even though I don't believe anymore in heaven, listen. Listen with your heart and your full attention. And after the conversation, if you think you might forget what they said, go and write it down. Those words are precious treasures. Do not change the subject. Do not look at your watch. Do not leave the room. Listening with your heart is 1,000,000 times better for your dying loved ones than $100 bouquet of roses when they lie cold and still in the coffin. Listening with your heart as they want to pour out their feelings to you is 1,000,000 times better than wasting many thousands of dollars on a fancy funeral, a luxury coffin, a gravestone. The last time I visited my friend Harry Wilson, over 13 years ago, days before he died, Harry told me, squeeze out every drop. In other words, make the best, make the most of every day of life. Do not waste the precious moments. Life is short. Our lives are too precious to waste. I remember my longtime friend Michael, oldest son of a large Catholic family in Iowa. He ran a natural food store where I stopped many, many times when I drove my dad's truck through his town. Michael was dark, lean, very attractive. He was a runner. He had sex with several women. I was very attracted to Michael. He knew it. And one morning, he phoned me when I was on the farm there in Illinois. He told me he wanted to experience sex with a man. So, Michael rode his motorcycle 70 miles that day to our farm. We went upstairs to my room. He lay down beside me for a moment, and then he got up. He could not do it. He was chained, absolutely chained by shame and guilt about sex with men. We stayed friends for many years, but he and I never had sex. He later suffered serious health problems. He stopped having sex with women for years before he died. Sadly, he died alone in his apartment here in Albuquerque. Very sad. He had moved to Albuquerque because of knowing me. If it were not for the heavy shame and guilt millions of men feel about having sex with men, shame and guilt from family, religion, buddies, most, if not all, men would enjoy sex and romance with at least one man in their lives, even if they're strongly attracted to their wives or girlfriends, even if they greatly enjoy sex and romance with those wives or girlfriends. Sex between men would become at least as popular with millions of men as baseball, basketball, or any sport. I lived for a year in a small town near Phoenix, Arizona, before I moved to Albuquerque. And one of my many Chicano friends in that small town was Manuel, a teenager. And years later, he was my only Arizona friend to visit my parents and me in Illinois. And a few years later, Manuel's sister and her boyfriend visited me in Albuquerque. I told them I am gay. When I lived in the small town in Arizona, I had not come out. I had never had sex with any man at that time. I told Manuel's sister and her boyfriend that I'm gay, but I had never told Manuel. His sister told Manuel I'm gay. He became very upset. I think partly because I had told his sister before I told him. He wanted to be close friends with me. Manuel called me long distance one evening. I was in Illinois, he in Arizona. And he may have been drinking booze before he called me. And he said, "How could you do this to my family?" And I don't know if I've ever had a conversation where it was so mixed, where he both praised me and condemned me in the same call. He told me in that phone call that he and his friends used to go into Phoenix and beat up gay people. So, in that phone call, I told him about a gay white man I met in Chicago who had been in the Navy. And I asked this gay white man what it was like being gay in the Navy. And the gay white man said, "Not bad, except there was a married Chicano who picked a fight with him." And later, the two of them were at the same party, and as the night went on, they got it on. Not with fists, but in sex. And the married Chicano went home to his wife, later came back to have more sex with the gay white man, and the gay white man asked the married Chicano why, if he was attracted to him, he had picked a fight with him. And the married Chicano answered honestly, "I could not let my friends know." And after I told Manuel this story on the phone, Manuel said, "Maybe I'm gay." It was like something that slipped out of his subconscious. I wonder if he even remembered saying that later. I did not respond to what he said. I don't know for sure if Manuel was gay or bisexual. Sadly, I did not hear from Manuel much, if anything, after that phone call over 40 years ago. Thousands die every year in the United States from medications given as prescribed in hospitals. Thousands die. Thousands die every year in the United States from receiving the wrong medication by mistake. Thousands die every year in the United States from other hospital mistakes. Thousands die every year in the United States from infections these people got as hospital patients. Thousands die every year in the United States from surgeries that were not needed. And my mother was almost one of them. Medical treatment is the third leading cause of death in the United States. How many people know that? I wouldn't have known that years ago. Medical treatment is the third leading cause of death in the United States. So do your damnedest to eat healthy, to live healthy every single day. Even if my medical insurance paid every penny of my hospital and doctor bill, I aim not to go to any doctor or to any hospital, if possible, the rest of my life. But I sure as hell can never say for sure. Smart scientists spend years researching to find new drugs to prevent and treat cancer, COVID, many other diseases. Sadly, most of these smart scientists know little or nothing about the marvelous healing powers of garlic, ginger, many medicinal herbs that our ancestors used for thousands of years around the world. Sadly, these smart scientists know little or nothing about the benefits of sunshine to health and of piss drinking, used in many cultures for many hundreds of years. But follow the money. Follow the money. Garlic, ginger, medicinal herbs, sunshine, piss drinking will not make billions of dollars for the drug-pushing companies. And on cancer, to prevent and treat cancer, eat nothing containing added sugar. Sugar makes cancer grow faster. Nothing containing cow's milk, because of the high casein in cow's milk, which makes cancer grow faster at every stage. Stop eating all sugar shit and other junk food. If you have cancer and if you want to live, never go to McDonald's, never the fast food joints. Change the whole way you live. And if you have crap in your cupboards and in your refrigerator that you know is not healthy, get rid of it today. Don't let it tempt you, because if it's there, there's a big chance you'll go and grab it and regret later. I love to see the shape of certain lean men's asses when they wear pants that fit their asses snugly. Better yet, to see their asses naked. On the other hand, I know it can feel sexy to a man when his pants are part way off his ass. It can feel like he's ready at any moment to strip naked and have sex. Most people in the United States spend most of the time cut off from our great doctor, the sun. The sun is the source of all life on earth. Most people, most of their lives are inside classrooms, offices, houses, factories, cars, stores, prison cells. And when most people are outside, most people cover most of their skin with cloth. So it's no wonder that the vast majority, up to 95%, do not have enough vitamin D. People who test positive for COVID often are low in vitamin D. Vitamin D activates natural killer cells in our bodies to fight infections of all kinds. In winter, we need much more time in the sun to get enough vitamin D. And we need it on our skin, our whole body skin, if possible, not just our hands and our face. The darker the skin, the more time you need in the sun to get enough vitamin D. Sunshine, the great doctor, lowers cholesterol, lowers blood pressure, lowers blood sugar. Sunshine increases endurance, lifts our mood, raises sex hormones. Start with a few minutes, if you're not used to it, and slowly increase. Never burn. Eat only healthy raw plant foods to benefit from the sunshine. I greatly enjoy sunbathing naked on many winter days in one of three small private spots in our backyard. And I say private because I sure as hell don't want trouble from neighbors or from cops. As I was saying, on many winter days, if there are no clouds, no wind, for an hour or two or three in the middle of the day. I love it. I wouldn't trade it for a free trip anywhere on earth. I read, I write, I think, I rest, I converse with friends as I sunbathe naked. But on summer days, it is too damn hot, usually, to lie there in the sun. So I get most of my body sunbathed by walking mostly naked and gardening mostly naked, as I say, in the summertime when it's hot. Men, do you have close men friends you open your heart to about your fears, your failures, your deepest concerns? Men, do you have close men friends who know the worst about you and are still your friends? And sadly, for many men, their friendships with other men are just about doing stuff together. Drinking booze, playing poker, playing ball, hunting, fishing. Many women's friendships with other women go much deeper, sharing the precious and the painful inside. Little girls can walk to school hand in hand, hug and cry and say, "You're my best friend, I need you, I love you." But sadly, many little boys are ashamed or afraid to show their feelings for each other. Fag or hoto are words that little boys learn to fear. Many teenage boys fear people will think they're gay if they show affection to other boys. Many men let their guard down in public if they're boozing together, or if they're in a bus depot or an airport saying hi or goodbye to a relative or friend. Many men let their guard down in public if they score a touchdown or make a basket, a pat on the ass, or a hug. And one of the reasons that many men love playing sports, they can touch each other's bodies, other men's bodies, in public and not be put down for it. Many men cannot admit that to themselves, let alone others. Men, do you tell your men friends your sadness and loneliness? Do you express tenderness? Men can be as sensitive, as warm, and open as women. Some men in some cultures know that and practice it and enjoy it. Men can be as sensitive, as warm, and open as women. And that includes straight men. Men do not have to spend their whole lives bluffing each other and keeping it shallow. Sadly, many men just shoot the breeze with each other, talking business and sports and women and politics. Many men are allergic to going deep and personal. Many older men become emotional vegetables when their wives die. They depended on their wives to connect deeply with family and friends, to ask questions of family and friends, to be interested in other people's lives and then tell their husbands. But when the wives die, those husbands, if they've never really opened up and listened and asked good questions, they either have to wake up and find freedom, learn from how their wives lived and listened, or they suffer severe loneliness as emotional vegetables. One day, years after my mother died, I was working in the family hog and cattle market back in Illinois. A young, shirt-free, very attractive, white farmer came to do business. And after he left, I told my dad, and just my dad and I were in the office, I would love to fuck with him. If you have sons or daughters, do they feel free to be open with you about their attractions to persons of the same gender or persons of the other gender? Can they be that open with? Can they be that open with you as I was with my dad about my feelings for this very attractive young white farmer? I said I would love to fuck with him. My dad told me, you better not let your brother hear that. I think I then told my dad, sometimes the person putting down being gay is fighting their own gay feelings. My only brother, we had no sisters, strongly condemns sex and romance between men. My brother strongly opposes being naked. He's strongly against dancing. I love to dance. It's one of my favorite things in life. As far as I know, I'm the most well-known openly gay man and nudist in the city. My brother and I have some contact through letters. I thank him, I thank his wife for being honest and dependable in settling up our father's estate after our father died many years ago in 1994. I would like to be close friends with my brother in spite of our huge differences. But I realize that may never happen. And if I had stayed living in that mostly white farming community, as my brother has, and if I had not had the great variety of many people who have taught me, loved me, inspired me in New Mexico, Arizona, elsewhere in Illinois, in Virginia, and on and on and on, I might have been as close-minded, as emotionally constipated as my brother, or worse. I am deeply indebted to many, many people, a great variety of people who have inspired me, loved me, taught me. One of my favorite stories is about how lonely, stingy, miserable, selfish Scrooge woke up. He changed. He became generous and friendly. He was a very late bloomer, but he changed. And I was a very late bloomer romantically. When I graduated from high school, I did not know I'm gay. I did not know that millions of men for thousands of years have been strongly sexually attracted to men and have enjoyed sex and romance with men. In my 20s, I began to know about men attracted to men, but I was so afraid of losing many male friends if I came out as a gay man. I never had sex with any male until I was 31. A young Chicano artist from Cuba, New Mexico, sucked my cock. And weeks later, a young man fucked me for my first time. I think he was part white, part Chicano. And I don't remember his name, and I don't know if I've ever seen him for many years. But he was a master fucker. Kindly taking his time instead of quickly forcing his way in. And I wish every man in the world being fucked for the first time or the 100th time had a master fucker like that man. It was wonderful. A taste of paradise. So different from what many men have suffered when men painfully raped them. And years later, I met a man here downtown. And we went down by the river. I had never met him before. He was a stranger. He fucked me, but it was not a good experience. I think he had been drinking booze. And when people drinking booze, whether they be men or women, when they have sex, they often are not interested much in giving pleasure to the other person, but mainly on their own pleasure, regardless what the other person feels. So I learned that night, never have sex with anyone who's drinking booze. Many years ago, Eric Menendez murdered his parents. And we can learn from his terrible crime. As he faced a life sentence in prison, Eric said his true punishment for his murder of his parents was the agony of hating himself for what he did. Eric tells abused children that killing solves nothing. Eric said, "What I did was completely wrong. Taking my own life would have been better. What is sad is there are so many people that hate me and they do not even know me. I was feeling horribly empty. I did not think I had much to live for, and within that week, I would have killed myself." Eric insists he loved his parents at some level, but he says life with his father, an entertainment executive, was impossible. Eric said, "One of the disturbing things is I've been getting letters from kids who've been abused. They say you did the right thing." Eric says, "These letters disturb me because what I did was completely wrong." Taking my own life would have been better. Eric wants to tell these young people, if you kill your abusers, you won't be able to live with it because you also love them. Eric says, certainly I'm relieved. I no longer have to fear anyone coming into my room at night. But suddenly they're dead. And you can't say, wait a minute, I need to talk to you about this. It's silence forevermore. And how much better for society, how much better for Eric Menendez if instead of locking him up for many years, he would be allowed to tell his tragic story and the hard lesson he learned. Tell it to schools all across the United States so that other kids, other parents can learn from his tragedy. Eric deeply regrets what he did. He cannot bring back his parents whom he murdered, but he can help others avoid committing the evil he committed. For hundreds of years, thousands of Christian preachers and priests have hammered awful shame and guilt into millions of people about any sex outside of church marriage of one man, one woman until death. For hundreds of years, thousands of Christian preachers and priests have hammered awful shame and guilt into millions of people about feeling strongly attracted and wanting sex with someone we're not married to. For hundreds of years, thousands of Christian preachers and priests have hammered awful shame and guilt into millions of people about pleasuring our own cock or vagina alone in masturbation. For hundreds of years, thousands of Christian preachers and priests have hammered awful shame and guilt into millions of people, saying God, the creator of the universe, will send these sexual outlaws to never-ending torture with no pardon, no parole if they do not repent and shape up. This kind of religion grabs people by the balls to control them through shame and guilt about sex. Religion castrates millions without using knives. And this kind of religion uses the fear of what happens to us after we die to control us. Christianity or any other religion that controls people through shame and guilt about sex that is wanted and enjoyed by all people involved, that part of any religion, whatever the brand, is evil. Christianity or any other religion that uses the fear of never-ending torture with no pardon, no parole after we die to control people, that part of any religion is evil to the max. If we give a damn about the climate crisis, if we give a damn about saving water, about water pollution, about saving forests, if we give a damn about cruelty to animals, about all hungry people worldwide having enough to eat, if we give a damn about our own health, stop eating all meat and dairy, cheese, milk, ice cream, eggs. As bad as using cars and planes, eating meat and dairy is one huge cause of climate chaos. far more people can be fed from the same amount of farmland growing grain, seeds, nuts, greens, vegetables, fruit, for us people to eat directly than by growing crops to feed cows and pigs and chickens and then people eating those animals. Watch this powerful documentary, Cowspiracy, on Netflix. I urge you to watch it. Or on DVD that you can borrow free through interlibrary loan. Cowspiracy, this documentary. So much powerful truth that you may never see in a TV show or a movie. Cowspiracy. Watch it if you give a damn about hungry people in the world, about water pollution, about the climate crisis, about saving forests, or your own health. My parents ran a cattle and hog market in Illinois, where I grew up. Sadly, I worked in that cruel business part-time for years. I stopped eating all meat, all dairy many years ago. We can wake up. We can change. And I've changed in huge ways the past 50 years especially, 60 years of my life. 43% of federal income tax pays for U.S. wars, past, present, and future. Over 1/3, well over 1/3 of U.S. federal income tax. We enjoy our hands to work, to garden, to play music, to eat food, to make love. If we pay federal income tax, we pay to destroy other people's precious hands in war. We enjoy seeing flowers, sunsets, trees, mountains, written words, loved ones, attractive bodies. But if we pay federal income tax, we pay to blind people in war. We pay to severely burn babies, to rip open the flesh of grandmas and grandpas. We enjoy walking, running, dancing. But if we pay federal income tax, we pay to paralyze children who will never run again. We enjoy our homes, protection from storms and cold, a place to feel safe with loved ones. If we pay federal income tax, we pay to bomb homes. If we pay federal income tax, we pay to turn sons and daughters into professional hired killers to murder on command with no conscience. If we pay federal income tax, we pay to murder our sisters and brothers abroad and to make enemies for our country all over the world. I have paid no federal income tax for war for 44 years, not one damn bloody penny. I thank you for watching, and I give my warm, strong thanks to Mark, to Eddie, to Travis for their excellent help dozens and dozens of times running the cameras and controls for this program. And if you see me on the street or at an event, I welcome you to meet me and to talk with me and to ask any personal questions. I love personal questions, and I doubt if some of you have ever had a friend or relative tell you that, or especially a stranger. Good night. And fresh piss. To your health.
And when it's said and done, you'll know the sun will shine